My name is Elara Hale, and I never imagined I'd spend my life confessing the things I once did in secret. I wasn't always the woman writing warnings and guiding strangers on how to protect themselves. Once, not too long ago, I was the threat, silent, hidden, veiled behind ritual smoke and whispered incantations. I was the one sending creatures to crawl, hover, and perch in places where innocent souls believed life was ordinary. I used moths to watch tears fall, spiders to listen to thoughts spoken alone in locked rooms, and stray cats to follow people through their waking lives. When I say animals can be used as spiritual surveillance, I am not repeating folklore or superstition. I am speaking from experience and from guilt. The world doesn't understand witches the way movies describe us. There's no cackling, no broom-holding theatrics, no theatrically evil monologues under a stormy sky. Most witches look like anyone else, soft-spoken, kind-eyed, well put together. Many of us held day jobs, had families, went to school, smiled during group photos, and played the role society expected. Darkness doesn't announce itself with fangs or claws. More often, it enters quietly. It disguises itself as curiosity, self-protection, empowerment, and then slowly control. I remember the first time I used an animal as an instrument. I was still young in the craft, eager to impress, thirsty for power and belonging. The coven elders told me observation was the first discipline. Before you can influence a life, they said, you must learn to witness it without being seen. The words fascinated me. I had no idea then how much those lessons would haunt me. They gave me a spell, delicate and precise, requiring hair, breath, and intention. The conduit was a small grey moth, harmless, beautiful, ordinary. But once the spell fused spirit and wing, the moth became something else, an extension of my will. And when I sent it into the home of the woman I had been studying, I felt her emotions through the creature as if they were my own: fear, doubt, longing, regret. It was intoxicating and terrifying. After that, I stopped seeing insects and animals as separate beings. I saw them as tools, gateways, messengers, sometimes even weapons. A single beetle could sit behind a bookshelf and record every whispered insecurity. A single stray bird could follow a targeted soul for months. And no one, not one of them, ever looked at the creature twice. Because who fears a butterfly? Who questions a random ant crawling across a desk? Who suspects a neighborhood cat sitting on a fence, staring too long? The dangerous part is not the creature itself, it's the intention stitched into its presence. A natural insect or animal acts on instinct, but a sent one carries purpose. It behaves with uncanny timing, appearing after arguments, after revelations, after pivotal choices, after prayers. The timing is never accidental. In the craft, timing is intelligence. Most people laugh when I speak about this now. The modern world has been trained to dismiss anything that cannot be measured or dissected. But I've seen far too much to pretend ignorance. Some creatures are just creatures, but some are watchers. Silent witnesses guided by the will of someone who has decided you are worth observing, whether out of obsession, curiosity, jealousy, fear, or darker intentions. And if a creature has been sent to you, then your life is not as private as you believe. The first sign is never dramatic. It doesn't arrive with a flash of magic or a chilling whisper. It happens quietly, like something slipping into your life through a crack you never noticed. One moment, everything feels normal, predictable, safe. And then, without warning, a creature appears where it shouldn't be. A beetle on a bathroom tile, even though every window has been closed. A moth fluttering around a lamp, though it's the dead of winter. A small bird perched on your balcony railing, staring as if it knows you, not passing through, not curious, just there, waiting, watching. People forget that energy leaves a trail. When someone thinks of you obsessively or seeks to interfere with your life through magic, that intention reaches you long before the physical manifestation does. The animal is merely the final step, the anchor. But the arrival of that creature feels strangely abrupt, not gradual, not natural. It appears as though placed there, as though it bypassed the world entirely and stepped directly into your environment with purpose. When I practiced, I learned that the most effective watchers were the ones the target wouldn't question. Flies were perfect because no one thinks twice about them. Spiders worked well in private spaces because people assume they've been there all along. Stray cats and crows were ideal for outdoor monitoring, patient, resilient, able to return day after day without being noticed as unusual. If the creature lingered, if it hovered, if it returned at the same hour or appeared in the same place day after day, that consistency became the wire connecting sender and subject. There's something unsettling about noticing patterns you never paid attention to before. You tell yourself it's coincidence or maybe your imagination because reasoning anything else feels ridiculous. And yet the creature remains. It doesn't behave like a random occurrence. It behaves like an arrival. Some people sense it before they see it, a tightening in the chest, a shift in the air, a subtle awareness like someone entered the room. Animals and insects under influence carry a sort of psychic weight, and even those with no spiritual sensitivity feel it as discomfort or intrusion. I have seen strong, rational people suddenly feel the urge to close curtains, lock doors, or speak softer without realizing they are responding to a presence. Many victims of magical surveillance describe the same subtle pattern. Something inside them says, "This shouldn't be here." That intuitive discomfort is not paranoia. It is recognition. Your subconscious sees the unnatural before your eyes do. When an animal or insect is sent, it is never random. The timing is deliberate. It arrives after a shift, after you made a decision someone didn't want you to make, after a relationship ended, after you confronted someone, after you prayed, or after you finally felt strong. Magic follows emotional thresholds because those are the moments when your energy is most influential, vulnerable, or dangerous to the one watching. So when a creature appears suddenly and lingers as if it belongs when it shouldn't, understand this. Something has crossed a boundary. Something has entered your life, not by accident, but by intention. The second sign is harder to dismiss because it engages you directly. It demands acknowledgement. When a creature has been sent for surveillance, it watches you with a kind of awareness that doesn't belong in its nature. A normal insect or animal reacts to its environment with instinct, chaotic, impulsive, uninterested in human emotion. A fly lands and leaves, a spider hides, a bird glances only long enough to confirm you are not a threat before turning its attention elsewhere. But a scent creature behaves differently. It studies you. It holds its gaze. It focuses with a stillness that feels too intentional, too knowing. There is a particular discomfort in realizing you are being observed by something that should lack consciousness of you beyond survival. I remember the first time a woman I monitored understood what was happening, not fully, not with understanding of magic, but instinctively. She paused mid-sentence while speaking to her reflection, and her eyes shifted toward the corner where a spider sat motionless. Not skittering, not weaving, simply staring. She whispered, almost trembling, "Why does it feel like it's listening to me?" Of course it was. Through that spider, I heard every word she spoke. Scent creatures break the boundary between the natural and the unnatural by behaving with eerie patience. Their focus isn't instinctive, It is directed. When you move, their eyes or bodies follow smoothly and deliberately, never frantic, never uncertain. A moth may sit on a wall without fluttering for hours, wings perfectly still, as though it has forgotten it is alive. A crow may tilt its head slowly when you speak, as though deciphering meaning. Their gaze isn't the gaze of instinct, it's the gaze of intention. There is an intimacy to magical surveillance that can be more invasive than any camera or recording device. The creature doesn't merely see, you feel its presence pressing into your awareness. Sometimes the sensation arrives before you even realize where the gaze is coming from. A weight, a prickle, a heat between the shoulder blades as though someone stands too close. It isn't imagination, it's energy. Everything living carries it. And when a creature is controlled, its energy isn't random, it's sharpened, narrowed, pointed directly at you like a needle. Some victims describe this stare as suffocating, others as chilling. Some grow irritated without knowing why, pacing or closing curtains or turning away from spaces they cannot logically explain feeling watched from. Those with stronger intuition sometimes find themselves whispering without meaning to, lowering their voice as if afraid to speak openly. The silence becomes tense, not quiet, but full. A natural creature avoids prolonged eye contact because instinct tells it that staring is a challenge, a risk. But a scent creature does not fear your gaze. It waits for you to meet it. And when you finally do, there is a moment, brief but undeniable, when something passes between you. Recognition, awareness, an unspoken exchange that says, I see you and you see me. It is in that moment the spell's true presence becomes undeniable, because no ordinary creature looks at a human like that and does not look away. By the time the third sign appears, the mind and body have already begun to register something is wrong, even if logic refuses to accept it. The shift doesn't happen visually first, it happens energetically. The air thickens in a subtle but undeniable way, as though someone invisible has stepped into the room and closed the door behind them. Most people describe it as a sudden heaviness, a pressure that settles over the space like an unseen blanket. To those unaware of spiritual interference, it feels like inexplicable anxiety. To those sensitive, it feels like intrusion. When I was still practicing, I learned that the moment a creature attunes to its target, fully connects, that is when the energy bridge becomes complete. The creature is no longer merely present, it becomes a tether between watcher and watched. And the person being monitored feels it, even if they don't consciously understand. Their body reacts first. Instinct has always been humanity's oldest alarm. You may notice the temperature shift, though not always in the way you expect. Sometimes the room feels colder, as if warmth is being drawn out of the space. Other times there is an unwelcome warmth, thick, suffocating, unnatural, like breath on the back of your neck. Goosebumps rise, not from a draft, but from awareness. The hairs on your arms lift as though responding to a silent threat. Emotional discomfort follows. You may find yourself suddenly restless or irritable without knowing why. You may feel the urge to leave the room or avoid a particular corner without understanding the reason. Your body is trying to move you away from something it perceives as dangerous, even if your mind is still processing it as harmless or absurd. Magic works on instinctual layers first. Recognition rises slowly, like a bruise surfacing. There is also the shift in thought, one most people never attribute to the presence of a bewitched creature. Scent watchers don't just observe, they influence the atmosphere surrounding the target. The mind becomes foggy, distracted, or unfocused. Words slip, sentences trail off, Thoughts scatter. You may find yourself forgetting what you intended to do the moment you walk into a room. That distraction exists, so you do not notice the observer. Those who are spiritually attuned experience something sharper. They may feel pressure between the eyebrows, right where intuition resides, a pulsing, a buzzing, a sensation like someone pressing a fingertip against the inside of the skull. And if the spell is strong, headaches follow, not from pain, but from energetic interference. Some people respond with fear, others with anger. A few, usually those who have encountered witchcraft before, go silent because they know exactly what is happening. And then there are the rare individuals who do something the sender hates most. They stop, they listen, they feel, because the moment you acknowledge that something in your environment is not just physically present, but energetically active, that awareness disrupts the illusion of normalcy. And magic, especially magic meant for surveillance, relies on one thing above all: you not noticing. By the time you reach this stage, the situation is no longer passive. Something inside you has shifted from subtle suspicion to quiet awareness, and the watcher, whether insect, animal, or something wearing the shape of one, can feel the change. That is the strange nature of magical surveillance. It is not a one-way observation. The connection goes both ways. The moment you begin to question it, you are no longer just being watched, you are interacting. Most people don't intend to test the creature at first. It happens instinctively. A pause, a glare, a tilt of the head, sometimes a whisper, not meant to be heard by anyone at all. But the watcher reacts to these small acts of acknowledgement as though communication has begun, and in a sense it has. The true test, however, is intentional. If you want to know whether the creature is ordinary or under influence, you must face it, not with fear, but with presence. Look at it, not a passing glance, a deliberate, unwavering stare. It may feel absurd at first, almost theatrical, but the reaction reveals everything. A natural animal or insect will respond exactly as nature programmed it: startled, skittish, indifferent. A fly will take off. A moth will flutter unpredictably. A cat will look away, blink slowly, or walk off with disinterest. Even creatures that normally appear still, like spiders, will shift position subtly or retreat if they feel seen. But a scent creature behaves differently. When you lock eyes or direct your attention toward it, it freezes, not with fear, but with tension, as though something or someone else is listening through it. The stillness becomes unnerving. It is not the stillness of rest, but of calculation. This is where words become powerful. If you speak aloud, not timidly, but with intent, and say something like, "I see you. Why are you here? Who sent you?" Something happens. Sometimes the creature stiffens further, as though bracing itself. Other times its body reacts unnaturally, jerking, trembling, or pausing mid-movement in a way no biological instinct can explain. And occasionally the reaction is more eerie. The creature tilts its head or shifts its stance toward you directly, as though acknowledging the command, not as an animal, but as a conduit. There is another reaction entirely: silence in your mind that doesn't feel like absence, but resistance. A pushback, not a voice, but a thought that doesn't belong to you. Something like, "Ignore it. You're imagining things. Stop. That voice is not intuition, it is interference." Some creatures do not withstand confrontation for long. The moment you speak to them as though they are something more than biological, they retreat, not in panic, but in abrupt disappearance. A spider that has been in the same corner for days will vanish as if it never existed. A bird will take flight the second your voice strengthens. A moth will disappear between one blink and the next. Others stay, but shift. Their energy becomes unsettled. The connection weakens. You have disrupted the spell, even if only slightly. Because recognition is the first act of power. And the moment you stop being an unaware target and become an active observer, the balance begins to change. By the time you reach this final sign, the line between doubt and truth has thinned to a whisper. You're no longer wondering if something is there, you're questioning why. The presence feels undeniable now, woven into the air around you like an invisible thread, tugged by a distant hand. And yet, the confirmation does not come from the creature itself. It comes from what happens inside you the moment you challenge its purpose. At this stage, the watcher is fully connected to the caster. There is no distance between the intention and the vessel. When you address the creature, when you speak with authority instead of uncertainty, you are not only confronting the animal or insect, you are confronting the witch bound to it, and witches do not like being seen. The confirmation begins subtly. You may feel thoughts slipping into your mind that do not belong to you. Not a voice. Witchcraft rarely manifests as something so obvious, but a feeling disguised as your own reasoning. You're overreacting. This is foolish. There's nothing to worry about. Just ignore it. The tone isn't comforting, it's dismissive, irritated, commanding. That's the first red flag. True intuition never speaks in fear or control, it speaks in clarity. Then comes the energetic recoil. It feels like tension tightening beneath your ribs or pressure building behind your forehead. Some describe it as a sudden wave of heaviness, like standing too close to a storm. Others experience a rush of nausea or dizziness, as if the air has shifted too quickly to adjust to. That sensation is the connection resisting your awareness. You're pulling on a thread the sender never intended you to touch. In stronger cases, especially if the sender is experienced, you may feel a chill sweep across your skin or down your spine. It isn't the cold of the environment changing, it's the withdrawal of spiritual concealment. The spell is reacting, recalibrating. You have acknowledged the watcher, and acknowledgement weakens the illusion of normalcy. And then, often abruptly, comes the most undeniable sign. The creature disappears. Not gradually, not logically, it is simply gone. A moth that lingered for days vanishes overnight. A spider leaves no trace, not a web strand, not a body. A bird stops appearing in the same place. A cat no longer shows up on the porch or windowsill. It leaves as if dismissed, as if its task is finished, or worse, interrupted. Some creatures flee the very second you confront them. Others linger for hours or days before retreating, but they never stay once the spell's secrecy has been pierced. Surveillance magic depends on subtlety. It cannot exist comfortably under exposure. And if the creature remains, not retreating but reacting with agitation, sharper stillness, or unnatural persistence, that is an entirely different warning, because surveillance is only the first phase. Some watchers observe, others report, and a rare few, when commanded, act. So if the creature stays after you challenge it, then someone, somewhere, is paying attention. I never intended to become someone who reveals what others swore to protect. Yet here I am, speaking truths most prefer buried, truths whispered in secret rooms under flickering candlelight, truths sealed by blood, silence, and fear. But silence protects the wrong side far too often, and I have learned that once you see the mechanics of dark intention, once you recognize how easily the unseen can slip into the cracks of your life, there is no unseeing. There is no going back to ignorance. Awareness becomes a mirror, and once you hold it, you begin to see every detail differently. If you've experienced even one of the signs I've spoken of, you may already feel the weight of recognition stirring beneath your ribs. That subtle ache isn't fear, it's memory, instinct, an ancient part of you awakening. We call it intuition, but the truth is deeper. Humans have always known when they're being watched, before walls, before doors, before language, before spells were written. The soul recognizes intrusion long before the mind admits it. And now you're no longer dismissing the thought as coincidence or paranoia or imagination. Now you're replaying moments, small, quiet, easily overlooked moments when something didn't feel right. The sudden appearance, the staring eyes, the restless energy, the way your thoughts faltered, the chill that did not come from the room, the silence that suddenly felt occupied. Your memory is unfolding like a map. Somewhere inside you, a question has formed, unspoken but sharp. Why me? There are many reasons: malice, jealousy, curiosity, power, fear. Sometimes you never wronged anyone. Your existence alone was enough to disturb someone who has lost their own sense of control. Some witches monitor because they want information, others because they want influence, and some watch because they are waiting for the right moment to interfere more directly. People imagine magic as external: candles, runes, incantations. But the deepest work is psychological. Surveillance magic feeds on your reaction. If you ignore it, it lingers. If you fear it, it grows stronger. If you recognize it, the witch behind it feels exposed. That moment, the one where you become aware, changes everything, because now the equilibrium is broken. You are no longer a passive subject, you are a participant. The one watching through the creature will feel it like a static charge beneath the skin. Awareness travels both ways. The moment you notice, something shifts in them too. For the first time, their confidence falters. You see, magic is not merely power, it is relationship. The watcher and the watched are connected through intention. Once the intention is illuminated, the dynamic begins to unravel. Now there is a silence around you, not empty, but tense. A pause in the unseen. A breath held somewhere beyond your physical space. A waiting. And in that stillness lies a doorway. Not everyone steps through it. Many people turn away, choosing disbelief because disbelief feels safer. It is easier to pretend nothing happened than to confront the invisible. But some rare, intuitive, unshakable souls lean in. They do not retreat. They do not shrink. They face the unknown with eyes open and spirit steady. And once you reach that point, once you are willing to face what watches you, everything that comes next is no longer about fear. It becomes about power, about boundaries, about reclaiming what was quietly invaded, about choosing not to be prey to someone else's hidden intent. The question isn't whether something was sent. The question is what you will do now that you finally see it.